Hi, my name is Jared Wilson, and thank you for coming to my EDL 851, Module 12, Teacher Reacts Negatively to Teacher Evaluation Case Study. Looking at the first aspect is identifying who is involved. So for this, I'd be playing the role of the principal or the evaluator in the situation. Another main component to the situation is Miss Stevens, who is a teacher at my school who I am in charge of supervising and evaluating. So what has happened? Miss Stevens is a teacher at my school, and as the principal, it's my job to evaluate her. To evaluate Miss Stevens as accurately as possible, I have entered her classroom multiple times. When evaluating Mrs. Stevens, I noticed that the students appeared to show little engagement. I have also noticed upon entering the classroom, the atmosphere can be heard as loud and appear as though students are talking at free will. To help support Miss Stevens, I schedule post-observation meetings to provide feedback. During scheduled meetings, Miss Stevens has acted defensively toward my suggestions. She stated there's no evidence that correlates student achievement with student engagement. Before making a final decision on whether to renew her or not, I observed Miss Stevens again in an attempt to observe changes in behavior. The observation didn't show a change in behavior, resulting in my final decision to support not renewing Miss Stevens. I scheduled a meeting with Miss Stevens to discuss her final evaluation. Miss Stevens displayed her discomfort with the final evaluation in that she continued to explain that her reasoning for not showing growth was an insufficiency in supervision. She stated that her evaluation was unfair and that she would dispute my recommendation or the given recommendation. So when and where? Observations took place in the classroom throughout the duration of the year. Stated that there were multiple observations during the course. Meetings were scheduled post-observations in an attempt to implement meaningful, actionable feedback. So again, who is involved? The principal, Miss Stevens, school board members to oversee the hiring and firing of teachers. They're kind of just a stakeholder. They're not necessarily introduced, but they are going to play a role in this. Section 2, report any legal or ethical issues. Has anyone been harmed by the action or decision of another, and if so, in what way? No individuals have been harmed during the action in this case. The only negative impact could possibly be the student outcomes in the classroom. Ethically, if a teacher is asked to make change in practice or implement new strategies from an evaluator, they should do so. Does the action or situation contravene an existing law? The law does not contravene any existing local, state, or federal law. There could be conflict, though, if predetermined in a school contract on how educators need to respond to evaluators' feedback. Was there a breach in contract? Were their actions discriminatory or constituted harassment? For this case, there wasn't any contract presented. With previous experience, most contracts do include a piece for those observations, evaluations, and supervisions, and these sections would outline specifics for individuals and how they should respond to evaluator feedback and implementation. So again, nothing was stated, but in my previous experience, this is what occurs. A single sentence summary. The principal has provided numerous opportunities to observe and support Mrs. Stevens, who appears to be struggling with pupil control in her classroom, but refuses to implement provided feedback, resulting in a negative, rebuted teacher evaluation. Section number 4, people. What are the relevant known facts and what facts are unknown? So right now, the principal has observed Miss Stevens' class multiple times during the course of the year. The principal has scheduled observations to allow avenues for feedback and implementation. And it is unknown if the principal provided specific feedback or an educational plan to support Mrs. Stevens. So that specific around what that feedback looked like is the unknown there. Miss Stevens is a teacher. She is a teacher at the school who has this principal as an evaluator. Miss Stevens is unhappy about the level and the effectiveness of support and supervision currently being provided at school. Miss Stevens is upset about her final email and her final review and wishes to dispute the negative evaluation. Miss Stevens is close to earning her 10-year residency with the school. Another player in this component in this game is the school board. It's unknown whether the school board has been notified of the situation and their point on it. And then the students, they demonstrate a lack of student engagement and respect toward their teacher and education. Where does it take place? There are many facts related to the school or the type of community they're in, other than it focuses on the teacher's perspective of inadequate supervision and support. Program. So what are relevant known facts to the case that are, to the case, and what are facts that are unknown? So the case study does not sufficiently provide enough information about the curriculum provided at this school. It is also unknown what grade level Ms. Stevens teaches, as well as the specific feedback. Unknown situation. Again, it is unknown if the principal provided specific actionable feedback or an educational plan to support Ms. Stevens. It is unknown what the district or school policies are in place. Knowing this could provide information on specific number of observations and what that should look like. There's not enough information on what the teacher contract states as far as repercussions for not following feedback, and it is unknown how long observations had taken place and what information was adequately recorded. Part 5, review and prioritize the information. Could the conflict or situation or the decision be damaging to stakeholders of the community? The situation could be damaging to stakeholders if there isn't sufficient enough information that supports the removal of Ms. Stevens. This could result in further litigation for the removal of Ms. Stevens. It could also display an unfair or impartial practices in principal's practice. So basically, if there's not enough information to support the principal, it can kind of single them out, look at their judgment versus supporting them. What individuals in the group have an important stake in outcome? The principal, as far as their image, the community they're serving, the atmosphere they have in their school, all are on the line here. Mrs. Stevens, she's looking at possibly losing her job, possibly losing tenure. The school board, as far as any repercussions, as far as a failure to provide accurate dialogue or accurate statements in their district policy. Some of those loopholes could show a burden there. And then also the students. I mean, if there's issues happening and there's dispute between teacher and principal, more likely than not, those students are not being fully educated as well as they could be. Next up, have all the relevant stakeholders been consulted? It's unknown if they have been consulted. The school board is the biggest stakeholder that may not be notified as of yet. The principal has been notified, and Ms. Stevens has been notified. Can I learn more about the situation? Yes, there's more about the situation that I can learn. One of the biggest learnings from this case study would be a better understanding of the school district policy for teacher evaluations. Also, the amount of data that the principal was able to collect on those observations and kind of build that body of evidence. Do I know enough to make a decision? I don't know enough information about the current policies for teacher evaluations and observations. There is enough information displayed to support my recommendation, but there may not be sufficient information for dismissal, but can provide specific steps for an educator improvement plan that could later result in a dismissal. Identifying options and possible consequences. Option number 1, I can take no action against Ms. Stevens. This would result in changing her status on her final evaluation as my recommendation to rehire her. Option 2 would be I could follow the steps and procedures outlined in school policy. This could include the implementation of an educator's learning plan, continue to properly document all observations, student growth, and teacher growth on Ms. Stevens. Option 3, continue with the dismissal of Ms. Stevens, relying on the already collected data and lack of teacher effectiveness. Possible strategies would be to provide opportunities for Ms. Stevens to share evidence of student engagement, to implement individual educator plans, or to include student perception surveys. Pros and cons. So for option number 1, pros would be that there would be less legal hassle, have the opportunity to continue to coach to try to make those changes, also to tap into her expertise and content knowledge. It states that she's a very knowledgeable teacher. She is very rehearsed in the content, so being able to tap into that and share with the students. Cons, less control over student learning. Obviously, if you're not able to make recommendations and have those recommendations followed, you're losing that control. does not provide best odds for student success. So if you've already identified that students are not succeeding the best they can due to a situation, you're kind of just prolonging that. Lack of demonstration in school leadership. So as a principal's point of view, if you have someone that's not following your expectations, how are you going to get everyone on the same page? Option 2, pros. Policy and school board support would be good as far as what to do for the next steps, how to support Mrs. Stevens. Number 2 is professional learning path provided to Mrs. Stevens. So this is saying, hey, specifically this, and this is what you should be working on and what you need to do. Also, pros is that proper documentation to fairly evaluate Ms. Stevens. It gives enough body of evidence whether or not she should be dismissed or rehired. Cons, Ms. Stevens could still not respond back to this. Students are still not quite receiving as effective instruction as the principal would like to see, and that the teacher receives tenure, meaning after this year it would be more difficult to release her. For option number 3, which is to continue with the dismissal of Ms. Stevens, number 1 would be the opportunity to recruit and hire new teachers. 2 would be opportunities to implement future and evaluational policy. And 3 would be an opportunity for higher student achievement. Cons to this was recruitment and hiring for a position, depending on your location, how difficult that could be. The possible legal pushback from Mrs. Stevens, and the lack of support from the school board if the principal does not have enough valid information to build a body of evidence. Best solution. In my opinion, choosing option number 2, this would result in the least amount of teacher legal backlash. It also provides opportunities for more accurate documentation and effective feedback. Ms. Stevens shares her concerns for the lack of support and supervision from the administration team. This option would provide Ms. Stevens with the proper support needed to increase student achievement and educator effectiveness. This solution would require extended conversations and meetings about educator evaluations with adequate progress and individual learning plan. It is important to discuss the situation with the school board president, making sure all the steps in the district and school policy is being addressed and followed accurately. So for implementation, meeting with all the stakeholders to make sure there's a clear understanding of the district and school policies surrounding evaluations. Meet with Ms. Stevens to discuss and plan for the educator improvement plan. Identify strategies with Ms. Stevens and ways to adequately support, offer mentorship, professional learning opportunities, peer observations if need be. Next, start the school year with a specific plan that outlines objectives, observations, growth, and evaluation. Make sure the plan is thorough and provides opportunities for Ms. Stevens to demonstrate professional growth. Outline repercussions for Ms. Stevens if she is insufficient in showing professional growth and student engagement. During the duration of the year, frequently observe Ms. Stevens and develop opportunities to strengthen and build a better working relationship. Ultimately, if they don't feel valued, they're not going to make a change. So really trying to reestablish that relationship would be key if they're to stay in that building. So my reflection for this is that this assignment gave me an opportunity to put into practice some of the effective strategies we covered this far in the semester. This assignment gave me a real-life outlook on how these strategies could help foster a positive learning environment. As an educational leader, it is important for me to provide staff with actionable and effective feedback. Doing this will help support the best learning opportunities for all students. It will also help identify staff that may lack necessary skills and work ethic to perform essential tasks. I can use this information to help construct learning paths or determine course of action and renewal of staff members. Again, thank you for joining my presentation for EDL Module 12. Thank you.